Good morning, and before I begin, I'll definitely be on time. Thank you for inviting me here. Thank you for all these wonderful women who I would love to spend time with and understand your stories, because we all have stories to share and connect with. Since this is the end of this session, I was thinking perhaps based on all these wonderful speakers we've heard this morning as well as yesterday, what were the common themes? And the common themes in my mind fell in the areas of values, ethics, education, rights and duties. We discussed a little bit about that. Connecting to the disconnected, not just to the people, but also to nature. Leadership, we had a significant presentation on that. Opposites, and that's the theme of this session. But also there was a theme within all of that, which was around empowerment, which was around seizing the moment, which was around legislation. So I will be, there's supposed to be a presentation that's supposed to go up, okay. My focus today is on what I do, and outside of being a woman and a family raiser, nurturer, mother, sister, daughter, etc., I've always had this feeling inside is what can I do more? And so what my journey took me on is what can I do for women, children, and on education. That's pretty much my theme in terms of the volunteer work that I have done. If you go to the next slide. This saying actually says it all for me. You always get some point in your time, if you can't read it, it basically says, at some time in everyone's life, our inner fire goes out. It is then burst into flame by an encounter with another human being. We should all be thankful for those people who rekindle our inner spirit. And I believe all of you are here because of Guruji and the organization, because they have done a wonderful job in rekindling everybody's spirit. And that is the beginning of any journey. Unless we have that rekindling of the spirit, things just don't begin. Next, please. This slide basically highlights some of the initiatives that I've supported or have been working with, and Praveen talked a little bit about I Meditate, and she's also been involved in I Meditate Humber. But this slide basically highlights the inspirational women that have influenced me in terms of what I have done. Next, please. Next one. So, rising above the water. One of my trips led me to Botswana in Africa and Malawi, an area that's stricken with AIDS and HIV, a community. There were very few males. In fact, women raising their own children, but also children of others, as well as children raising children. So these women, when I was going there, it was a program I was involved in which provided funding, and I was going to see how effective that program was. I was expecting to see everything that you have probably started to think about. Despair, poverty, malnutrition, just unbound sort of issues that you couldn't handle. In fact, what I saw were these women, very strong women, and they were just so happy. And the bottom slide showed their happiness. When I was there, they danced, they sang. So within the limited resources that we were able to provide them, what they were able to create was such a community, such a connection, and food, shelter, and education, the bare bones of education, but nevertheless, the beginnings of what the nurturing requirement requires. So through this, there was another program where there was funding for. These women set up a pig farm. They had piglets, and then they gave those piglets to other women so that other women could create pig farms, and then thereby earn some money, support their children, and live in society. So these women were empowered. They looked at the opportunity, and actually, as I go through these slides, there's only a few of them, pay attention to the nature in the top left corner, because it has a bit of a meaning. It's a bit of connection to nature. This next slide is about women in the Amazon region, a region that is run by drugs, a region that's run by drug lords, male-dominated, which goes without saying. These women fought against the men in the society to get a piece of land where they grow cocoa, through the program I was involved in, which gave them funding, we set up a small factory that they ran and developed, produced the cocoa, produced chocolate, and sold it to Lima. What did they do with those resources? They were able to create a school. They were able to create some positiveness in the community that they lived in. And I have never, ever yet met such strong women, because they were up against drug lords, which is a very different situation versus a disease. These women were just so immensely strong. I hats off to them, and I continually remember them, because whenever I'm going through a difficult time, I think of them, and they give me the energy to kind of move on. Next slide, please. So the themes that the slides that I've showed you today really talk about the common values, the common interest, and how do we move from one position to another? How do we face that challenge? How do we see more than just the challenge and move beyond it? And I believe these women saw that. They saw beyond what they could see. They believed in what they could create, and they needed a little bit of help, a little bit of rekindling of the spirit, and that was given. And they were just amazing to be able to achieve those results for the communities that they lived in. And I think that's perhaps one of the biggest inner reward that one can ever feel, is when you're able to give and see the results, and see children being nurtured and growing up in safe environments where they can actually grow and also contribute as they lead their lives. So a little bit about me, you know, this is about stories. Oh, we all women connect. I was 7 when I left India. We moved to England, and that's my family, my father, my mother, and my brother. I was 7. So we moved from the east, moved to the west, and I grew up in England and then in Canada. So as I've grown up, between east and west is something similar to what Praveen touched upon, but very different from an environment perspective. I was always competing with white males in the professional career I was in. I didn't go for the beers with the men to get promotions or to get engaged. I literally had to work hard and harder to prove it to myself, but also to prove it to everybody else, to get the promotions that I got. But what that required was really the balance, and the balance that I think as you age and as you meet people, you're able to provide. So for me, the balance is, when I go home, I'm the Eastern person. I'm the mother. I have in-laws, I have parents, I have children, and obviously my husband. That you balance that whole side. And then at work, it's decision making. It's making sure things get done. It's making sure that the resources get allocated, and that you're able to create results for the students. We have 30,000 students in our college, to make sure that each and every student is addressed appropriately. So that's my challenge. I live between the two worlds, and every time I come to India, I relive and I reconnect. And I've never been to Bangalore, never been to this ashram. Just wonder what a wonderful, wonderful place. I'm really looking forward to seeing the university that you've created. Just awesome. Next slide. So these are these symbols that you saw in all of those slides, and it really talks to connecting with nature. It talks about opposites. The coconut is me. I'm brown on the outside, white on the inside, because I went to an Anglican school. I know the Bible just as much as I know my own scriptures, and spirituality is a common theme. I've always looked at not what's different, but what's common, and that is what has driven me. And the ladies in Peru looked at the rose. They saw the blossom first before they saw the thorns. They overcame those thorns to get to the blossom, and they achieved it. The women in Botswana, yes, very strong women. The women in Botswana were the lilies. Lilies in a very disturbed environment. Not only were they able to survive, they were able to rise above the water. And the last piece is a symbol around the iceberg. Sometimes we see things on the surface. You know, I'm tall, I have these colors on, but beneath that surface there's so much more. And when we use all of our senses, not just our sight, not just our hearing, but more than that, we actually see the full person. And that's what these ladies saw, and that's what inspired me. So positivism, I think we've all talked about that without getting that sense of positivism, we just cannot actually move forward. However we look at it, half glass, half full or half empty. Some of the wonderful women that I've been introduced to lately, Praveen Kalpana, an individual at Humber College who started the I Meditate Humber, but women who are in touch with nature. And I think we've had a discussion on that. That connection to nature is so important to us. And here is just a reflection of meditation, touching a very old tree, taking in the sun, and really embodying that within yourself. Next, please. So the key points I wanted to leave you with is my sense of what I've learned over time, and it's this: be more giving. It's only through giving that you will receive. So open yourself, don't close yourself. When you close yourself, you just cannot receive anything. That's the first thing. Use all your senses. We naturally use the common senses, but always think how you can see more into the individual. Don't judge them right away. Accept that unlearning is more difficult than learning. The ladies in Botswana, the ladies in Peru, they had to unlearn everything that they had been taught and nurtured about. They had to challenge the men to be able to achieve what they did achieve. So unlearning is really much more difficult. And while we nurture our children, it's important that we nurture them with that balanced approach. Trust that in the fullness of time, things happen, and that's a biggest learning for me. I'm a planner, doer, decision maker, so I expect things to happen. And through meeting other women, I've recognized that in fullness of time, God provides us all everything that we absolutely need. And He puts us in a position to do, I'm in a position, if I just did my job and went home, that's one thing. But I feel I'm put in a position that I should be doing more. And that's exactly what I do with my volunteer work. And last of all, be positive, because without this positiveness, without this connection, without this rekindling of our spirits, we just cannot do more. So that's it. Wonderful ladies. I want to clap to you for being here. Thank you.